Mrs. Thompson here, and as promised, I'm putting together a video of our very first standard that we covered in hopes that you as the parent have the ability to really make a connection with your child, and that for my kids, you guys have almost like a mini online documentation of what we've been doing in class, so that way if you miss a day or if you can't remember a standard that we went over, you can go ahead and go on the YouTube channel and you can check it out and give yourself a refresher about what we learned. So for today, we're gonna go ahead and come look. We've been working on this standard over here for 2 days now. I am learning. Our GQ, which is how our standards are set up, is recognize and explain the need for repeated experimental trials, SC.5.N.1.3. So if you come over here, we broke the standard down the other day and recorded it in our interactive notebook. And the reason that we broke it down is because we want to make sure the kids are really understanding the vocabulary correctly when reading these standards. So we said that recognize means to know, to see, or to understand. We said that explain means saying something in detail. We said that repeated means to do something over and over again. We said that experimental means asking questions, improving ideas, trying new things, and looking for an end result. And I had some kids that were able to make the connection with experimental to their inquiry questions. Some of those are, what are some different things you could try? What would happen if? What might you try instead? What will you do next time? Tell me about your materials, and so forth. So if we go back, the last word that we broke down is trials. Now, when I said that it's important for the kids to understand the proper context that these words are in, is that a lot of them made connections with judicial trials. When we're actually talking about scientific trials, I wanted to make sure that they understood the difference between the two. So we wrote down what we are experimenting on. I wrote down an example of our table project that we had done not too long ago because we did a lot of trial and error whenever we did this. They had to put together a table with a certain amount of materials and a certain amount of time. So I was talking about the trial and error that they experienced when they were doing that, but today, and I'll show you some really cool video footage, we actually did another experiment which covered our ability to look at why we need to go through and have all these repeated experimental trials. They were able to take a yardstick and we dropped tennis balls on multiple different types of surfaces. They were then able to record their data, and we actually went through and did some averages and did all that fun stuff, and they were able to find the average amount of inches that the ball bounced back up based off of how the surface affected the ball. So when they did this, they did multiple trials of it, and they recorded multiple times that they had their data pieces set in front of them. This gave them the ability to really see why it was necessary for them to do this. And when we come over here, we can tie this to, it is important because when experiments are repeated and replicated, it adds support to the conclusion. It also makes for more reliable data. So going into replicated and repeated is if I, Mrs. Thompson, did the same experiment over and over again in the same laboratory with the same materials. If someone replicated, they replicated my experiment that I originally done. So if I had the ability to go post my findings in a scientific journal somewhere, and someone said, oh, hey, I really want to replicate her original experiment to see if my data differs from hers. I want to see what her results are compared to mine. We now know that the students are able to tell that when experiments are repeated and replicated, it adds to support that conclusion. And we also wanted to go through and tell them, I know I have learned it when I can recognize and explain why it is necessary to repeat the process in an experiment. So after we did our ball experiment today, I asked the kids, why is this important? And they were able to tell me, well, it's important because if I only dropped it one time, I wouldn't have that concrete of data. The numbers that I got from gathering and doing this experiment wouldn't have been as strong as they were with me doing it multiple times. So folks, that's what we've been learning about the last couple days. I'll be putting together another video standard tomorrow for Friday. Please make sure, if it's okay with you parents, to allow your kids to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way, they have the ability to really have some fun interactive learning at home. This also gives you the ability to really make those conversations with your kids in depth when they come home, and you guys can really talk about what they did at school today. If you have any questions or comments, you can always put your comments below, and I will be sure to respond back to you. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Students, I'm super proud of you, and thank you for being so awesome. Have an awesome day, guys.